Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Miel Hebraika, Hebrew Honey. And today we're looking at Elijah the Tishbite, a very interesting prophet, one of the prophets from the north. The north didn't have a whole lot of prophets, Elijah, Elisha. Most of the prophets that wrote books are from the south. The only other one from the north is Jonah, but Elisha, of course, had a very key role of, this is where we find out just how bad the kings of the north were, especially King Ahab. So to get to Elijah, each name that we deal with, most of the time that we deal with names in the scripture, they mean something. El Elyon is the highest God. Elijah is God, is Jehovah is God, or God is Jehovah. Works both ways. Elijah, and we're dealing with Elijah the Tishbite. He's from the Gilead. He's from the Trans-Jordan. He's on the other side of the Jordan. And in prophets, you have people who are sort of on the inside, like Isaiah. You have people who are on the outside, like Jeremiah was from outside of the city of Jerusalem. So some prophets are in, some are out. Elijah, of course, is very much out. He's from Gilead. He's a Tishbite. He's doesn't really have the credentials, but the Lord has most certainly chosen him to be a prophet. He's got, when we start reading about him, the Lord told Elijah to do this and do that and so forth. We find Elijah doing everything that Jehovah has told him what to do. So he's most certainly a prophet. And we'll start with 1 Kings 17. This is actually when we first meet up with Elijah. Elijah the Tishbite from the exiles of Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, there shall be neither dew nor rain these years except by my word." Now, Elijah the Tishbite. I do have a little bit of a map here, Tishbe. I've put that in as a name place somewhere in here, maybe even further north. Not exactly sure where it is, but he's a Tishbe, Ha-Tishbe. And he's from the Toshabe. He's from the inhabitants. This is a Shin Bet root verb here. Could be a shav, could be returning ones, shuv. Also, shav is to be a captive or an exile. I've chosen the translation exiles, so that's construct root here, construct ending plural, exiles, because this relates to, in other words, later on when we're talking about Sarephath. When we're talking about that place, the Shin Bet appears again in that particular story of him going up to here, close to Sidon. So this one does have connection further on into our readings. So Vayomer Eliyahu HaTishbe Toshve Gilead al Achav, Hi Yehovah Elohai Israel Asher Amadti Lefanav Im Yihye Hashamayim Ha'ela Tal U Matar Ki Im Lefi Divri. And there shall be no tal or matar, shall not be dew or rain all of these years, and these are Hashanim, Ha'ela, these years, except by my mouth, by my voice. If I say it, it will happen. If the Lord basically says it, it will happen. But if we aren't saying it, it's not going to happen. In other words, prepare yourself for a very severe drought, and it's exactly what happened. So after pronouncing, or after giving that message to Ahab, pretty soon, or just a verse or two further in, leave here, travel eastward, hide out in the Kerith Valley that faces the Jordan. Okay? Lech mizeh u fanata. And fanata is literally point your face at. Faneha is your face. Push your face that way. Okay, go that way. Fanata lecha. Sometimes I will argue with the Mashra. This incidentally is for you, and the way the Mashra understood it was a pronoun in front of a preposition in front of a pronoun. I would just simply take as a repetition of lech, okay, and simple. So your face and then go, okay, lech. Kedma, to the east, the directional hay at the end of this kadem, Kedma, head to east from, he was apparently brought the message at Samaria, and so head back to the Kerit Valley. Kedma, nish tarta, and hide yourself, okay, nish tarta. Nifl here, okay, reflexive, and or passive, hide yourself, reflexive, mostly reflexive, nish tatar, tar, ta, and hide yourself. Benachal, in the nachal, kerit, okay, kerit means something that's been cut out, but a nachal, in the Kerit Valley, there are two ways in Hebrew of saying valley. One is gehenon, the other one is nachal. Nachal is a sort of a wider valley, a little bit more space to it, and there most certainly are valleys up here. Just follow the Jabbok further up the way, you'll find and there's other ones coming in up here, so it's a possibility over here, but mostly up here. Benachal Kerit Asher, which Alfene HaYordan, which is in front of facing, okay, faces, this is the same thing here, facing, you face, and the Kerit, the Nachal Kerit faces Fane HaYarden, faces the Jordan. So this valley faces that Jordan. And now the water stream that's in the middle of the Kerit Valley dries out. The crows have been feeding him. Things are, the drought is settling in pretty severely, so the water supplies are becoming limited. Ahab's, of course, totally upset, sending his servants all over the place looking for water, looking for food for the horses, and so forth. As the drought is taking on very serious consequences. So the Lord says to Elijah, "Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon. Dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you, a woman widow." So kum lech, okay, stand up. This is a command, hortatory command, imperative. Stand up, lech, for you. Like I said, yeah, go. Yeah, okay, let's go. Good thing. if they would have put a preposition pronoun, it was no. It has to be a verb. Okay. Kum lech, stand up, go, walk. Sor pata, and this is sarephath. This is a kames tuv, so it's sor, which makes it sound a lot like sor, which is tire right here, but it's a sorfta. Okay, and in modern Hebrew, this is France, but here this is Lebanon, and it's a foreign country. It's the land in where Jezebel came from. Okay, she was from that area of Lebanon, and so what's happening right here? Very interesting. Elijah is getting into the middle of the drought, and for refuge, finding a place to hide out, the Lord tells him to go up here to this place and stay with an almunah, stay with a widow. In many environments, this was totally unexpected. How can you expect a widow to feed you and to have a place for you? Of course, the Lord's going to do that. How would you want to hang out smack in the middle of enemy territory? And this is one reason I'm taking a second look at this particular verb right here. So Asher Leshidon, okay, this Sarepta is not really part of Sor, it's part of Shidon. Okay, we have Shidon here, Sidon, okay, Shidon. Ve Yash Veta, and dwell there. Remember, we at the first verse that we saw up in 1 Kings 17:1. He was Tishbe, okay? He was an inhabitant. He was an exile, and so the word here, of course, when the translators looked at this, they said the root is shin, yod shin bet, and that's fine. I'm not going to argue with the translation, but it also means shin bet can mean a captive or an exile. In other words, what the Lord is telling Elijah, you'll find refuge up here. In fact, there's even Shabbat, you'll find some rest up here. Hey, I'm sending you to a a seaside resort area. Not exactly, but yeah, a widow's home along the seashore there. And you'll be able to dwell. You'll be able to be in exile. You're going to be out of the circulation for a while. And actually, it was a perfect way to hide himself from uh, Ahab. Later on, the Lord tells him to go back to Ahab and face up to him again in order to hold this big meeting on Mount Carmel. So, Leshidon, Shavata, Sham, there, and stay there, rest there, find exile there. Hine, Shiviti, hey, look at this. Shiviti, I've ordered, I've told. Sham, there, Isha, a woman, Almuna, widow, Le Kal Helach, in order to feed you, to take care of you. This often is something that's used when you're referring to somebody in their old age, but Kal Ketah. You'll find the same phrase in, I first remember seeing it, Book of Ruth. This is the child that was born to Ruth will take care of you in your old age, Kal Ketah. Okay. So Ahab sent to all the people. Now here, he's been up here within Serepta, a very interesting story of the child dying and supply of food and oil and so. And after all that, the Lord says, go back to Samaria and face up to Ahab. You have to bring my message to him, and there has to be a showdown. Okay? So here's what's coming. So Ahab sent all the people of Israel, gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. That is then all of the prophets of Baal and the other people there who weren't quite exactly excited about Baal, but were following along with Ahab. Ahab, by the way, was one of these people who wanted to put his foot in both camps. He was okay with the idolatry of his wife Jezebel. He kind of wanted to stay on the side of Jehovah as well. He was one of these guys willing to play both fields. Not a good thing, by the way. You have to decide in terms of Jehovah whether you're with him or not with him. And Ahab was one of these guys who had a hard time deciding, or just didn't want to decide. And if you aren't with the Lord, you're actually against the Lord. So just be very honest about that. V'yeshala, Ahav. Ahav is an interesting term because it means the unifying one. Ahav, the one. Okay, I'm the one who brings it all together. And maybe he's thought of it in that way. I'm going to bring Jehovah and the other gods all together into one package. Jehovah, of course, doesn't want to share his reign with anyone. So, Ahav. Bekol B'nai, among all the peoples of Israel, B'nai Israel. Kibbutz, this is kibbutz, is like, think of it as kibbutz. They were kibbutzing there. Same root of Kof Bet Tzadeh. Kibbutz, and they gathered Na'avim, all of the prophets. And these were the prophets that were all lined up with Baal. The only prophet that was there for Jehovah was Elijah. Elhar HaKarmel. Carmel is the Carmen. Karem is a orchard, an orchard, and this is orchard of God. You'll find it here at Mount Carmel, and there's another Carmel in the south where Abigail was, but this was the most important one. In fact, a lot of tourists and so visit the monastery that was up here to remember what happened at this spot. Nice statue of Elijah with a sword in his hand, about ready to chop the prophets of Baal. So, and when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, Jehovah, he is God, Jehovah, he is God. Now, this is at the climax of this encounter between Jehovah and the prophets of Baal. Now, the prophets of Baal spent most of the day dancing around their altar. Nothing has happened. And then finally, Elijah says, okay, let's restore the broken down altar that was here, 12 stones representing 12 tribes of Israel. Let's cut up the ox, put it on top, and pour some water on. And then when you got lots of water, pour some more water on, get it really soaked. And then instead of jumping around and all kinds of crazy prayer, Elijah just says, if it's your will, I want to be able to show who is God here. I want the hearts of the people to turn to you. And so very simple, very quiet. And it's that kind of prayer. And when Jehovah has his heart open, his ears open to that, he responds. And he responds in a big way. Boom! The whole sacrifice is burnt all up to a crisp. Even the water's all dried up. And when the people see this, this is their reaction. Very interesting reaction here. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, Jehovah, he is God, Jehovah, he is God. Vayareh kol ha'am ve'yepalu al fenechem vayomru Yehovah Hu Elohim, Yehovah Hu Elohim. They repeat it. Now this is the long way of saying this particular phrase. Yehovah Hu Elohim. We get to the name of Elijah and it's Eliyahu. Okay? So actually Elijah's name is an abbreviation of what we have here in the affirmation that was made by these people when they saw that altar all burnt to a crisp. They realized right at that point, hey, it's not Baal. It is Yehovah. Okay? And Hu, him, he. This is a personal independent pronoun. Ha Elohim, he is the God. Okay? The direct article right here isn't really needed for grammar, but this really does exclaim very good. He is the God. He is the only God. In other words, when this hey is added, the article is added on here, it isn't always necessary, but here most certainly emphasizes that there's only one true God. And so you have Yehovah, Hu, he is the God. Yehovah, Hu, Ha Elohim, repeated, and a very important expression here. Anything in Hebrew, when you see it repeated, you know it's repeated for emphasis. So that phrase here is repeated, but it is the long version of Elijah's name. Okay, Eliyahu, Jehovah, he is God. Okay, Jehovah, he is God. He is the God. So Jehovah, Eliyahu, Jehovah, he is God. They were repeating the longer version of Elijah's name. So after all that, they went up on the top of the mountain and they observed the small hand of the cloud coming, and then of course that all turning into a very ferocious, fierce. In the meantime, they chopped all the heads of the prophets of Baal off and threw them just over the creek into territory that was a little closer to Sidon. So the hand of the Lord was on Elijah. He gathered up his garment. He ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Yad, okay, the hand, Yehovah, Hayata, Eliyahu, Yashanesh, Matav, Yarash, Lifnei, Achav, Ad, Boka, Yezreelah, and directional hay at the end of Jezreel here. So, and the hand of Jehovah was on Elijah. Okay, this is a hand of power, hand of direction. Okay, and he then gathered up his cloak, his garment, matena. This is the one that you'd sleep in if you had to sleep in it. He had to wrap it up. He had to tie it up so that so it wouldn't get in the way of his running. This is a very common way of people who have long robes in the Middle East. If they have to run somewhere, they have to pull the edges of the robe up, tie it up real good so that the feet are free for running. That's what Elijah did here. He ran a lot faster than Ahab. Ahab's on his chariot. Big thunderstorms turning the Kishon Valley into just a big mud hole. Of course, that's not going. He's not going very fast through that with his chariot, and Elijah can just run through the pathway over the rocks beside all the mud. He'll easily get to Jezreel much faster than Ahab, who's stuck in the mud. In other words, Ahab is losing out here. Also, Jezebel is losing out here. This whole matter of the valley turning into mud was something that was very key in what happened in the battle during the time of Deborah. So when your valley turns into mud, it's a sign that the Lord is against you. And Jehu, now this is when the Lord speaks to Elijah over at Mount Horeb, and he's telling him what's going to happen. Okay, and these are the things that are going to happen before Elijah is carried into heaven. So Jehu the son of Nimshi you shall anoint to be king over Israel. Elisha son of Shaphat of Abel Mecholah you shall anoint to be prophet in your place. There are a couple of times we'll see Masha, but in sense emphasized on the second syllable, Timsha. Okay. Ved Yehu ben Nimshi, Timsha, Lemelech al Israel, ואת אלישע בן שפט מאבל מחולה תמשע לנביא תחתיך, in your place underneath you. So this is Masha to Messiah, to anoint for king over Israel. And this is Elisha. Eliyahu is Jehovah's God, and Elisha is God saves. Okay, so you have Eli, God, my God, Shah, my God saves. Ben Shaphat, Abel Meholah is part of the numerous Abels that are in the valley of Jordan. Also, even the Transjordan, like Abel Shittim, and even up here, Abel Bet Makach, all the way up to, wow, all the way over here. But these are places that have pastures that have really good moisture. Abel means to be moist and good green pasture. Okay, so that was over here in the valley on this side of the Jordan. So Elisha is from this side, and Cisjordan, and Eliyahu is from Transjordan. So he's going to be in place. This Elisha will be in place of you very soon. So the sons of the prophets who are at Jericho, Richo, drew near to Elisha, said to him, "Do you know that today Jehovah will take away your master from over you?" He answered, "Yes, I know. Keep it quiet." Just keep it quiet. Heheshu, no, Heheshu. Yegashu, okay, and then they drew near. Yegashu, Bnei Hanabaim, Asher, Yericho, nice sarka over the end here, Yericho, Elisha, Vayomaru, Elav, Hayadata, Ki, Hayom, Yehovah, Lokeach, Et Adonecha, Me'al Roshecha, Vayomer, Gam Ani Yadati Hacheshu. So they drew near, the sons of the prophets. This is a prophetic guild, apparently, that took place. They would gather at Jericho, they'd gather at Bethel, and came to Elisha, to God is saving, and he said to them, you know, Ki, Hayom, that today Jehovah Lokecha will take. This is also used for harvesting. We see it quite often in the book, second chapter of Ruth. Lokeach, it's a pataf rutifa here. Lokeach et Adonecha, your Lord, your master. Me'al, from over Roshecha, from above your head. In other words, not literally, but from over you, in terms of what the relationship that Elijah's had with Elisha. Elisha's been the apprentice, and Elijah's been the prophet. So from above your head, the Roshecha is your head. Vayomer, he said, yes. Gamani, yes, I know. Yadati, Heshu, be quiet about it. Keep it quiet. We don't have to talk about that. And they crossed the valley. Of course, the whole nice, beautiful story of them striking the water with a cloak, and then crossing, and then the cloak falling back to Elisha, symbolic of the power that the Lord, the authority that the Lord had given to Elijah, now fell back to Elisha. And as they went on and talked, behold, chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. Elijah went up in a whirlwind into heaven. So Vehi, Hema, Holachim, Haloch, Vedaber, Vehine, Rekav, Esh, Veshushai, Esh, Fardu Be'in Shenchem U'Veva Ya'al Eliyahu Be Sharaf HaShamayim. Sharaf is a whirlwind into the heavens. We have heaven here, but in Hebrew it's almost always plural. It is always plural. HaShamayim, heavens. So he went off into heaven, fulfilled a most interesting ministry. He was from the Transjordan. He goes into heaven also at the Transjordan, and leaves then the ministry to Elisha. Elisha, of course, carries forward with the ministry that Elijah had started. Very interesting people, Elijah and Elisha, and most certainly an example to us of being faithful to God. Elijah did have he was promised in Malachi to be returning, and in terms of what Jesus referred to him, he said, okay, Elijah has returned as John the Baptist. In other words, anybody who comes with a prophetic voice, he represents Elijah. But then Elijah appeared before Jesus and the other 3 apostles that were there, along with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And this was on the Mount of Transfiguration. The clothing then turned to a bright light. And Elijah then, even at that point, symbol of the prophetic voice of God. You have the voice of law given through Moses, and Elijah, the prophetic voice of God coming to us. And when we read the scripture, we must be looking for the prophetic voice of God to us. So may Elijah always serve as an example to you, teaching you the way to be honest. And we can also learn from Ahab. Don't try to put your feet in 2 camps. If you're trying to follow the world and follow the Lord at the same time, it's not going to work. Follow the Lord. The world will self-destruct at some point, and at that point, we have to be faithful to the Lord. And Elijah most certainly was that way. Even though he had awful times there were crows had to feed him, times that a widow had to feed him, times that he was persecuted, times that he had an awful time. Jezebel scared him so bad he ran all the way to Mount Horeb. And yes, very interesting life, but one of faithfulness to his Lord, and we can learn from that. May God bless, may God strengthen you today.